ಸತತಮು ಚರಣಮು ಕೋರಿದಿನಿ ಕಮಲವಾದಯುಗಮು ನೌಮಿತಿ ಸುಂದರಿ ಶಂಕರಿ ಈ ಜಗಮುಲೋ ಸರಿಯು ಬರು ಲಯ ಜೋಡ ಮಾಶಿ ಕಾಮಾಕ್ಷಿ ಸರಿಯು.
Hello and welcome back to Raaga Rasika. This is a podcast program that explores the world of Carnatic music. Joining us from Albany, New York is Vidya Subramanian. Hello Vidya and good morning.
Good morning, Devesh.
Vidya, last week we were talking about Purandaradasa. Towards the end of the episode, we played a snippet of a song sung by Srimati M.L. Vasantakumari. And I listened to the song. You had mentioned in the episode that it was in the Raaga Sivaranjani. It was really mesmerizing. There was something in that Raaga, and I thought we could showcase that Raaga Sivaranjani in this episode and talk a little bit about it. So why don't you introduce for us Sivaranjani?
That was definitely a mesmerizing rendition by Dr. M.L. Vasantakumari. She has that quality of bringing out the essence of any raga that she took up for elaboration. Having said that, the Ragam Sivaranjani itself is quite special in the sense it conveys a strong mood of melancholy. It's of a relatively recent origin, but it's become immensely popular as a lighter ragam, a ragam that is primarily used for the post-thani segment in a concert. That is where you would typically hear the lighter pieces like tukadas and tillanas and so on. And let me first introduce this ragam by singing the scale. Sivaranjani is a janya of the 22nd Melakarta ragam Karahara Priya. So the scale for Sivaranjani is as follows. Sa re ga pa da sa sa da pa ga re sa.
As I listen to that Arohanam and Arohanam, just the ga alone seems to set the tone. There's something interesting in that ga alone.
Basically, the Sadharana Gandharam or the lower ga, which is the ga that is present in this ragam, typically conveys a less positive mood compared to the Antara Gandharam or the higher ga. If you take Sivaranjani and if you raise the ga, it's very interesting to observe that you get Mohanam, which is considered as a very upbeat and positive sounding ragam. So let me illustrate by singing the scale for Mohanam now. Sa re ga pa da sa sa da pa ga re sa. Now to contrast, let me sing the scale for Sivaranjani. Sa re ga pa da sa sa da pa ga re sa. Another important point to note here is that the difference between the two ragams is brought out not only by the Gandharam, but you can see that the effect of the Gandharam on the Rishabham or the Re is also important. So if you look at Sivaranjani again, it has the Chatushruti Rishabham or the Re 2 followed by the Sadharana Gandharam or Ga 2. So these are closely bunched notes. So when these two notes occur adjacent to each other in a ragam, the presence of the ga acts as like a cap on the re. So you cannot do very much with the re. Typically the re would be quite flat.
Because if you're giving a gamakam to the re, you're almost touching the ga.
Yeah, actually what would happen is if you shake that re, it's difficult to give a gamakam from the Sadharana Gandharam to the Chatushruti Rishabham. Typically your voice would go to the Antara Gandharam, which would be a grammatical mistake. And what would happen is once you shake the re like that, you cannot really sing the Sadharana Gandharam at the correct position. So if you look at Sivaranjani, sa re ga, you cannot do sa re. Then you have already given a gamakam involving the Antara Gandharam, Sagari, Sari, then you're already out of Sivaranjani. So if you look at Mohanam in contrast, Sari, Ga, so the Re itself starts sounding a little bit more upbeat because of the presence of the higher Gandharam, which allows one the liberty of giving Gamakam or oscillation to the Re. So this shows that the presence or absence of Gamakam depends not only on a particular note but also on the presence or absence of adjacent notes. So that's one of the most interesting aspects of Carnatic music, in my opinion.
You mentioned that although it is a melancholy kind of raga, it is a lighter raga as well. And that seemed to be contradictory statements. When you use the word light, what are you referring to?
That's an interesting question. See, when I say light, typically it means that it's a raga that doesn't offer too much scope for gamakam. So light is a term that's used pretty much in Carnatic music parlance for a ragam that is not conducive for a lot of oscillations or microtones. So if you look at Sivaranjani, it has only 5 notes. And then out of the 5, Sa and Pa never can take any gamakams. And then the Re being capped by the presence of the lower Ga is also pretty flat. Also, if you look at the Ga of Sivaranjani, there is no Ma in this ragam. So all you can do is give a very light oscillation to the Ga, because giving repeated oscillation from the Pa to the Ga is not easy. Sa, Re, Ga, 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 Ga. So you cannot do too much to the Ga of this ragam. And then the only note I would say which can pretty much take some amount of gamakam would be the Daivatam. Pada sada pagari sa. So there's not too much you can do in terms of gamakams. Most of the rendition would be based on glides and curves as opposed to the back and forth oscillation, which is more characteristic of weighty ragams.
Can you give me an example, in your opinion, of a really heavy classical ragam?
Definitely. To give you an example, let me illustrate the ragam Bhairavi. So Bhairavi has ample scope for gamakam. If I just sing the scale, it would be sa ga re ga ma pa da ni sa re da pa ma ga re sa. So if you look at this ragam, almost every note, again with the exception of the Re, because it has the lower Gandharam, almost every note can be oscillated. It can be given different kinds of gamakams. So this is an example of a ragam that has been explored and studied over the last several centuries. And another interesting thing to note here is that when we look at the history and evolution of ragams, not all ragams that are considered heavy classical major ragams today were considered so in the past. So in fact, I was reading an interesting note that the ragam Kalyani was considered at one point as a relatively minor ragam and not really fit for elaboration. But today it's one of the most important ragams. So there is a chance, 2 centuries from today, Sivaranjani could perhaps be a major ragam that you would hear in the concert halls as the main piece.
Could you sing for us a snippet of an alapna in Sivaranjani and then a snippet of an alapna in Mohanam?
Definitely, that would be a really interesting exercise. So let's begin with Sivaranjani. Ta na 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 ra ta na 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 Moving on to Mohanam. Of course, Mohanam has been explored a lot more than Sivaranjani. So it has many typical Murchanais or Pidis or Prayogas. That is typical phrases that are considered characteristic of Mohanam. As you can see, Mohanam has this whole positive tone to it. I don't know if it is conditioning or, if that's the way the ragam is, but Sivaranjani is generally associated with a more somber note, and it's a ragam that has been used in a number of films. Is that not, Devesh?
Yeah, as I heard you sing the Alapna, it immediately sort of resembled numerous film songs, including, for instance, the famous song from Ek Duje Ke Liye, Tere Mere Beech Mein, as well as some older Hindi songs as well. The song in Mehbooba, a really old 1976 movie, which has a very popular song, Mere Naina, is also, I think, in Sivaranjani. And of course, Ilayaraja has composed numerous, Ilayaraja being a Tamil film composer, has composed several songs in this raga as well.
And like I mentioned earlier, I think the relative flatness of the notes, along with the scope for a lot of curves and glides, makes it particularly suitable for film songs because it conveys a strong melodic appeal and a strong emotive appeal as well.
So Vidya, let's pause here and then maybe pick up next time and showcase just a few songs in the Carnatic arena as far as Sivaranjani is concerned. So with that, thank you everybody for joining us today. Thank you, Vidya. Join us next time on Raaga Rasika. Visit us online at www.raagarasika.com. To learn more about Vidya, visit her online at vidyasubramanian.com. Thank you and goodbye.
चिंतामणि मंदिरस्थ शिवाकार मंचस्थित शिवरामे